Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Peter Lindstrom, and I'll be chairing the Environment Commission. Welcome to 2020. This is our first meeting, I do believe, of the new year. So, is that right, or did I miss one? Because I was out of the state for a while. I'm like, I don't think I missed one, but so here we go, 2020, and I will call the meeting to order. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye,
Aye.
and it passes. Approval of the minutes from December 10th, 2019. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
And motion is moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. That takes us to our consent agenda where we have 5 items, 5 comp plans. Carver County, City of Waconia, City of Brooklyn Park, Golden Valley, and Chanhassen, their comprehensive plans and comprehensive sewer plans. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. And that takes us to our non-consent business agenda, where we have 3 items. The first one is, Tim, you're going to be talking to us a little bit about a bit of a mishap of a month or so ago with one of our interceptors. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee, my name is Tim Woodine. I'm Assistant Manager with Interceptor Engineering. I'm here to present on business item 2020-29. I don't know if it's coming up here.
Here we go.
There we go. So just a refresher, an emergency declaration, we're declaring a public emergency in an emergency situation in which the health, safety, or welfare of the public or the safety of the Metropolitan Council employees or facilities is potentially compromised and requires immediate attention to correct. There we go. The location of our emergency is on 1 SP 200. It's in Battle Creek Regional Park in St. Paul, very close to Lower Afton Road. There's a MnDOT park and ride location around Lower Afton Road and Highway 61. We're a little bit northeast of that area, as you can see from our map here. What we bumped into here is we went out and we were doing some testing or some analysis of the area for an upcoming project. We advanced a soil probe with a geotechnical consultant for the project, and we unfortunately advanced that soil probe through our pipe. So what we're working on here is engineering services to help support our repair work, temporary conveyance of the wastewater so we can repair this broken pipe, repair the broken pipe, surface restoration. Initially, when we looked at the project, we estimated around $500,000 of cost. We were really looking at a very tight area to get into. We've got some access challenges to get back to this location. There's a lightweight pedestrian bridge that we need to cross to get back there. So that really limited the equipment that we could bring back to this repair location. So we were playing it pretty cautious as far as our initial cost estimate on what it was going to take to repair this breach. Since then, we've finished the repairs, and repair costs have come in under $100,000. So we've managed to really scale back what was needed. Our consultant and the contractor were able to find a better solution than we had initially anticipated. So our proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council ratify the justification for the declaration of emergency for the repair of Interceptor 1 SP 200 in St. Paul, attached to the business item. With that, I'll take any questions.
Questions for Mr. Woodine? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question, a number of questions. Well, just get them all out here and then you can answer them. My first question was council staff on site when the drilling was commencing. I presume that staff was directing where the drilling should be done. Um, did it cut more than one hole in the interceptor? And is this um, did the drill operator understand what had happened when it happened? Were they able to report that right away? Um, and Is this part of the rehabilitation, that section of interceptor, part of a plan for rehabilitation going forward?
Good
Thank you,
questions. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. I'm going to answer those in a little bit reverse order, and you might have to help me with the questions just to make sure that I cover them all. The purpose of the geotechnical evaluation was as a part of an upcoming project for this facility. So we are working on a rehabilitation project, which includes some CIPP lining and some work on existing manholes. So that was part of the reason that we were doing a geotechnical evaluation of this area. We're going to be replacing a manhole in this location, and we wanted to have a better idea of the soil conditions in that area. We did have Metropolitan Council staff available or on site during this work. In fact, as a part of the work, as part of the location of this the soil boring, our staff went out and located the existing interceptor based on record information and our information record locations of that pipe. So we went out, we measured where that pipe was supposed to be, and unfortunately, with the age of those record drawings, there were some inaccuracies in those record drawings, and where we thought the pipe was, turns out that was not where it was. We've been working to see what we can do to address that. We are holding a lessons learned meeting as a part of that work. Our project manager for the repair project, not for the repair project, but also for the rehabilitation project, is holding that meeting, and we're trying to determine how in the future we can avoid situations like this, what we can do to improve our locates and make sure that we're not damaging our pipe. As far as the pipe damage, yeah, the auger itself, though, advanced all the way through the top and the bottom of the pipe, so there was a complete puncture of the pipe. Did I get all of your questions?
What material is the pipe made out of?
The pipe itself is a concrete pipe, RCP.
Okay. So what was
Please.
Mr. Chair? What was the repair that needed to be done? Was there a complete excavation of the interceptor, or were you able to just send something down the hole to be able to patch that drill?
Mr. Chair and committee members, the repair did involve a temporary conveyance, so we did have to momentarily stop the flow of water through that pipe. What they were able to do is advance a tube down into the borehole that we had advanced, and they were able to fill a grout material up through the bottom of the pipe to take care of the bottom location. We dried out the pipe so that that material could be placed in that location and cure and form a plug in that location. The top of the pipe, what they installed was kind of an umbrella type contraption. So they advanced a piece of equipment down into that pipe, pulled it into place, and essentially created an umbrella in the top there to seal off that hole and then fill that with grout as well. So that was how we repaired the pipe. We did not need to do any extensive excavation in that area. That's part of the reason that we were able to keep the cost down as low as we were.
Thank you for that.
Councilmember Vento.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Tim, was there any environmental cleanup that needed to be done in addition? Any?
Mr. Chair, council members, no, there was not any environmental cleanup that needed to be done in addition to that. There didn't appear to be any spill of material, obviously puncturing the hole on the top and the bottom. There did not appear to be any spill of material outside of that pipe, so there was not any additional environmental cleanup that was done.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Please.
D- d- This is probably going to sound like a lame question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Does having something like this happen in the winter pose a challenge, or are there advantages to some extent?
Mr. Chair, council members, I think that's an interesting question. One of the challenges here, like I said, we advanced the geotechnical boring down about 35, 38 feet or so, which punctured the pipe. The pipe itself is roughly 10 feet below grade. One of the things that kind of helps with that is that ground surface is frozen. So a lot of times when you're doing excavation, that excavation, even with a boring, will collapse in on itself, and you might not be able to get back down in there. With the frozen ground, that borehole was able to stay open, and so instead of trying to excavate and figure out where we had created that puncture, it was exposed for us to be able to find as long as we were out there to repair it.
Thank you. Glad I asked the lame
Yeah.
question.
Great question. Other questions? I assume this is our responsibility, not the subcontractors. We were the ones that said, yep, it's okay to drill here, and no responsibility for the sub.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've been talking with our risk department about that. Unfortunately, we believe that because we are out there and directing our contractor, our geotechnical firm, where to advance that boring, we unfortunately we think we're on the hook for that.
Thanks. It'd be interesting to hear the results from the lessons learned meeting. Like, how are we going to be addressing this? Is this something that we can, before we do some sort of drilling, do some double checking ourselves beyond just what the map says? Or I think the committee might be interested in hearing what those lessons learned are. Yeah, Councilmember Bento.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one more question. I live near this area on the Maplewood side of McKnight and drive down Upper Afton Road quite a bit. And if I recall correctly, this area has a hiking trail that goes through there. Did this require any community engagement just to let folks in the area know what was going on, or was it the kind of situation where it didn't?
Mr. Chair, council members, because this is usually seen as a pretty minor part of the work, geotechnical analysis, we typically don't notify the community at large of what we're doing. However, we have been coordinating with Ramsey County Parks. Since this is a Ramsey County Park, we've been coordinating with staff there, and as soon as this happened, we made sure that they knew what was going on and what we were addressing in the area.
Thank you.
Good questions. Other questions or comments? And with that, you are looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that takes us to the second item on our non-consent business agenda, which is Metro Water Conservation utilizing MinTap. Welcome.
Thank you. All right. I'm Brian Davis, Senior Engineer in Water Supply Planning here at the Met Council, and I'm here to talk to you about business item 2020-30, Metro Water Conservation utilizing MinTap interns. So just to give you a little background on the issue, industrial and commercial water use in the 7-county metropolitan area constitutes about 125 million gallons per day of water demand in total. That's industrial and commercial. So that's about 25% of the total water demand in the metro area. These businesses are oftentimes seeking cost savings in any way they can. and water is a part of their cost savings. The savings come from the costs they pay to have water provided to them, whether it's municipal or running their own wells in some cases, and of course the cost for treating the water, the sewer charge, and a lot of these water uses involve heating, so there's an energy component to the water use also. Adds up to a lot of money for some businesses. Environmental stewardship is another aspect that businesses look at as a driver for being more efficient with their water use. And of course, the businesses are definitely eager to save water and money and energy, but they're busy and they don't have people on staff who have time to look at these things sometimes. So that's where our partnership with the Minnesota Technical Assistance Program, or MNTAP, comes in. MNTAP is an organization that's part of the University of Minnesota that was founded in 1984, and it focuses on energy efficiency and waste reduction for Minnesota businesses statewide. It's housed in the School of Public Health at the University of Minnesota, and let's see, I could probably, excuse me, read the back here. Little description. MNTAP is an outreach program at the University of Minnesota that helps Minnesota businesses develop and implement industry-tailored solutions that prevent pollution at the source, maximize efficient use of resources, decrease energy use, and reduce costs to improve public health and the environment. We began partnering with them in 2012 here at the Metropolitan Council, and we have had a very successful run working with them since that time. Most of our work, the vast majority, has involved providing financial support to help college summer interns that are engineering or science students at the University of Minnesota or other universities work with these industries on site for an entire summer, focusing on water efficiency. And through last summer, we funded 29 of them. So we started with just a couple, and now we've increased it up to about 5 per summer. When you add up all the savings that these interns have found through their work at these 29 businesses, it adds up to about 230 million gallons of water per year saved. And that adds up to about $1.26 million per year in savings every year. So that's cumulative. You can add it up over time, and it's been increasing since then. Probably one of the best things about it, I think, is that we're training the next generation of environmental engineers and water resource scientists here in Minnesota to work at industries and have a focus on this topic as something that's part of their work. So we have lots of quotes from them. These are just two of the quotes that I pulled from some of the publications. This internship gave me the opportunity to learn practical skills and gain industry experience outside of the classroom, which of course is very important because there's a lot that you don't learn in the classroom in college about this topic. The MNTAP internship was a great opportunity to learn and practice skills not taught in my engineering curriculum, such as communication, project management, and economic reasoning. I am super thankful for this experience. I mean, these are very common comments that we get from students every year. What we seek to do with this additional funding over the next 3 years is to hire another 15 summer interns, so that's 5 per summer, for the next 3 summers. What this involves, working with MNTAP, is a number of things that the students don't do, such as recruit the companies to participate, develop and scope the projects at those companies, select them, finalize the agreements with them, advertise for student interns, and interview them, and then hire them, train them, put them in the right job, and then coordinate their work for that summer at the business, and then have a student public presentation at the end of the summer, which is always a fun thing because it's sometimes the first time that these students have ever presented anywhere outside of a school lecture hall or something like that. And then we have the executive summaries published in this really nice magazine that they put out every year called Solutions, which gives all the details of the student projects for that summer, many of which we funded, but not all. We're not the only funder of this program. Obviously, there's more than 5 per summer, but 5 is what we're able to afford to fund. So that's what we seek to do. We've had a lot of success with this program. I think it's a really good use of the Clean Water Land and Legacy Amendment funding that we get. It's very forward thinking, and it's kind of work where the benefits are obvious and immediate for the companies, but I think the long-term benefits might be something that we don't really get to see and quantify right away because we're looking at people who are young and just starting out, and who knows what kind of impacts they're going to have over the next 40 years of their careers, now having some knowledge about this topic that they may not have had before. So the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize its regional administrator to execute the contract amendment for contract 14I-007 with MnTAP in the amount of $315,000, which will increase the total contract amount since inception, which was 2012, to $747,500. And I'd be happy to take questions. I can also leave these up here, pass them around if you're interested
Yeah,
in
if you
looking.
could, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And as you're doing that, so you mentioned this is Clean Water Fund. So this was initially Clean Water Legacy Funds, and it continues to be Clean Water Legacy Funds that we received from the state that we're utilizing in part for this purpose. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's correct. Starting in 2012. I think we first scoped this project in early or mid 2011, and it took some time to get it all kind of finalized. But so 2012 was the first year that we actually had some interns working with our funding. So it goes back a ways, almost to when I began here at the council.
And it's just for businesses. For our portion, it just is for businesses. I know that the MnTAP interns have been used by the city of Woodbury and other local governments, but for our purposes, it's just for businesses.
Actually, Mr. Chair, some of that, it is mainly for businesses, but we are flexible with it. And if a community like Woodbury or Plymouth last year, you'll see one of the communities in the magazine there is the city of Plymouth. If they come to MnTAP with an idea that is related to water savings and involves an intern that could help for a summer in engineering, then we are open to discussing it. And we've done that a couple times now. So it's mainly industry focused, but if there's something that is a water savings for a community, for a utility, we will entertain the idea. Because we think it's worth it. I mean, utilities are really some of our main customers, and we want to help them in this endeavor.
How do we select the 5?
Mr. Chair, we don't do any of this
it's
selection.
MnTAP
It's all MnTAP that does it. And part, it's interesting, but part of the way that MnTAP operates is that they kind of have 2 tiers of things going on here. They have one level where they will go out and look at issues with companies kind of on a short-term basis and advise them on what to do on a completely confidential basis, because for some industries they don't want information about how they do things getting out. But for our project with the interns, they have to sign a agreement to publicize the work of the students. So that's why you're able to read about exactly what they did. So there's kind of 2 things running here. We don't really fund the more confidential part of things with our project.
Makes sense. Councilmember Vento, did you have a question or comment?
Well, but initially my question was going to be about the types of businesses, and this handout really gives a good cross-section of them. And I have to say what I find really impressive is the variety. There's healthcare, there's food, there are nonprofits like the Phillips organization and the Minnesota Zoo. So I find this really exciting, and I'm especially glad to see the White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce as a part of it. So thank you.
Well, I'm wondering, so if we know of students who are interested in this, they can apply to MnTAP probably in February or March, something like that. I'm wondering about, or if there's a business that's interested in this. I'm wondering if we could be helpful in getting the word out, really.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that would be great if you or anyone here could do that. If you're interested in doing that, I can forward to you the email that was sent to me about a week and a half ago from Mintap that was advertising for that, looking for that,
Yeah.
looking for businesses. And I don't know if they sent an email about the interns, but I can find out.
Yeah, I know. I'd appreciate that, Councilmember Venville.
Mr. Chair, do the interns have to be students at the university?
Mr.
think
Chair
so.
and committee members, no, the students do not have to be students of the University of Minnesota, but they do have to be university students somewhere. So
Somewhere,
yes.
college or university.
They tend to be from the University of Minnesota or from the States somewhere.
Right.
But there have been some. There's one who is from Washington University in St. Louis recently. I think somebody from University of Wisconsin-Madison. So and she may have had a connection to Minnesota, her parents. I'm not sure about that, but they do not have to be University of Minnesota students. They do tend to be, though.
Please.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate, this is like the exact type of program you want. It's a business-public partnership, and we're educating the future leaders of the world coming up as engineers in our type of work, and the results are saving water, for the public. So just a well-done program, and appreciate your work on it.
No, thank you. It's a rewarding project for everybody. I will also say, as far as the popularity goes, there's about a 10% acceptance rate for students who are applying. It's a pretty competitive program. They get a lot of applicants, and they're very careful about selecting them. That's an important part of the job, because these the businesses are all different, and so the Mintap people have experience with them, and they know what to look for, what kind of talents or skills would be needed by this business versus that business, and they're very careful about selecting it, and I think that's why they do such a good job. These students always shine in these projects. So
Yeah, I've
kudos to
attended
them.
the presentations that they give at the end of the summer. I've been to one of them, and it's kind of mind-blowing about the things that they're able to accomplish at the age of 22 or 23 or 21 or whatever. Wow. Very impressive. And I'm impressed with Mintap, too. What a great asset for Minnesota. And then work not only with businesses, but probably with our own wastewater treatment. I think we've probably used them for our own services, and I know they've done tons of work with wastewater treatment plants across the state. So any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to authorize the regional administrator to execute this contract amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And you're up for our final item as
Yes.
well, talking about turf grass
More water efficiency.
and more University of Minnesota as well.
It just happened that way. No grand design to that. All right, so the next business item, 2020-31, a topic that you may have heard me speak about before here, turfgrass irrigation efficiency with the University of Minnesota Turfgrass Science Program. A little background again on turfgrass and irrigation in the metro area. Irrigation of turfgrass has been increasing in the metro area since the 1990s. What that looks like in terms of data is on the graph that you see in front of you, you can see the summer peaks, which are the green bars for this typical community, which we're showing in this graph. We won't name who they are. You can see that those summer peaks over time, as we're advancing to the right, are getting much higher than the winter use. So the summer peaking factor is something that's been increasing in many communities because of additional lawn irrigation. And that's just a function of invention, technology, changes in people's attitudes and expectations about irrigation. Sometimes they buy a new house and it's just included. So, they didn't have a choice to put it in. It was already there, or was part of the design of the entire subdivision. So the irrigation has been increasing since the 1990s. It comprises about 30% of residential water use when you look at it over on an annual basis. So that comes to about 90 million gallons per day. as an average over the year. Of course, in the winter, that's almost nothing or nothing. And in the summer, it can be very high depending on what the weather is. So it's a highly variable water demand. And as I like to say, it's probably, if you have one of these irrigation systems, it's probably the leakiest appliance in your house. And that's because sometimes there are leaks that you can see, as like you see in that broken head in the photo there, but a lot of times the leaks are ones that you can't see. And we're not below the earth looking at that system in our lawn, and we're certainly not usually up at 4 a.m. when it's going off. So we can have leaks going on for many years in a system like this that people are not even aware of. So it's something that we have been looking at in partnership with the University of Minnesota Turfgrass Science Program on the St. Paul campus. We've been working with them since the summer of 2015, and we've had a lot of great success thus far. Our work over the past couple of years has focused more on the investigation side of things. So we have been doing a number of projects to try to quantify exactly how big this problem is and how we can begin to address it. So part of that investigation has involved doing surveys of residents in the metro area. This is online surveys to find out more about their behaviors with irrigation and its prevalence. We did an entire summer of irrigation audits. That's the picture on the far left, where we went to 60 different locations around the metro area and did a professional auditing of their irrigation system. Part of it involves putting out those little catch cups that you see on the far left, where you put out the cups in a pattern, run the system, run the zone for 45 minutes, see how much water is in each cup to see how uniform the distribution is of the water. That's just one of many things that we did. We also took advantage of some really cool research facilities at the university, at the St. Paul campus, to look at different turfgrass species and different irrigation technologies to see which ones are better than others. So what you see in the middle photo is something called the Rainout Shelter. This is located, it's just north of the Bell Museum, if you know where the Bell Museum is on Larpenteur. And so what you see there in this Rainout Shelter is a plexiglass cover, which when it starts raining is triggered by a rain sensor to move automatically down a track. There are rails on either side of that area there to cover up a certain area in this plot, and the area that we were investigating is bounded by those little dashes there. So what we did there was put in 29 different species of turfgrass that you can buy at big box stores around the metro area, and cut them at different heights, grew them in, and then subjected them to a 60-day drought, basically, to see how well they performed, under different cutting heights and with different brands. So that's a way of keeping the light, but keeping the rain off of it. And then after the end of 60 days, we started the irrigation back up and grew them back in and looked to see how they responded to, coming back after a drought. And some, of course, some are better than others. Different species, different brands. And then on the far right, we have a demonstration plot at the university where we have 7 different plots. And in each of those plots, we did a different irrigation technology experiment, different smart controllers, soil moisture sensors, and one plot that is just a control plot where we didn't do any irrigation at all. So the goal there was to try to keep the grass quality the same, but look at how much water is used under those different irrigation technologies to see how much water they each used and compare them to each other. And so this is just one little piece of what we found. This is a graph that shows the percentage of water savings that each of the irrigation technologies that we investigated had versus the control plot. Now, our control plot was one where we looked at what about 40 to 50% of the people in the metro area do with the irrigation system is they run it every other day, regardless of what the weather is. That's partially because of the really good training that they've had on odd even day watering bans in cities, to set it so they don't conflict with the ban, but that also kind of breeds a artificial scarcity effect where they think, well, I better, do this today because I can't do it tomorrow, even though they don't really need to do it today. So what we found with these smart controllers and soil moisture sensors is that we could have water savings by anywhere from 23 up to 80% versus the every other day irrigation, simply by changing out the controller. And of course, manually irrigating is the best, if you can convince somebody to pay attention and turn the irrigation system on only when it needs to be on. That's always the best way to do it. But not everyone, in fact, most people don't want to do that or won't do that, aren't interested in doing that, you know, all kinds of reasons. So this is a situation where the technology is advanced to a place where you don't need them to know. You can use the technology smart controllers, which use the forecast, the current conditions, and the past weather using weather stations to alter the irrigation schedule and actually control it automatically. So even if you have no interest in paying attention to what the weather is, your controller can do that for you and change how much you irrigate based on weather, which is really, you know, what you want in the end, whether you're using your own brain or the technology and the controller. So we've been focusing more now on getting the word out about all this information that we've gathered about it to confirm, you know, what we thought was an issue, and it is an issue in some communities. So part of those efforts involve creating signage, like you see on the left there, that can be distributed and customized by communities to put out. We've been holding demonstration classes at the St. Paul campus where we're showing off the different technologies and how they work. That's the photo on the right. We've had a couple of those. For 3 years now, we've had a really nice and pretty big site in the horticulture building at State Fair, which is what you see there, that I've staffed along with people from the university, and we must have had thousands of people come by. You know, we're right across from all the gigantic vegetables. So for 12 days or however long it is, we get lots of people. We've had lots of interactions with all kinds of folks, you know, people who have irrigation systems who don't, people who hate the whole idea of it, people who love them. I mean, every attitude you can imagine has been shown there. And, you know, it's our role there to help them learn about these technologies if they want to learn about them. You know, we're not there to tell people don't irrigate. I mean, the technology's been invented and we can't uninvent it. Now we just want to help people do it in a way that's, you know, the best for the environment, for them, for their pocketbooks, for the utilities. So the next couple of years is going to involve a lot of training and education. Part of that is a new site that we have developed at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. That's this photo right here, where we have a test plot with a bunch of different irrigation technologies, which we are growing in the grass, and we're planning on holding courses out there for those who are interested, from cities, citizens, townships, anyone who wants to come and learn and get their hands on these technologies and see how they work, what they look like, how you do an irrigation audit, a simple one, things like that. So that's part of our plan. We also have a mobile education trailer, a little teardrop trailer that we purchased. Part of our additional funding is to really alter that trailer in a big way so it becomes kind of a mobile demonstration trailer for irrigation technologies and different water efficient grasses that we can take out to farmers markets and environmental events across the metro area. There's a lot of those, and we think that'd be a really good place to talk to people, because they're usually in a good mood and in a learning mood when they go to something like that, which is nice. So that is those are the main aspects of the continuation of our project. We also have a educational certification program that we're going to develop for contractors who install and maintain these systems and blow them out in the fall and put them to sleep for the winter, so that we can get them on board with some of these new technologies that are really kind of sweeping the marketplace. I mean, every year there are more of these controllers coming out. It's really something, just how fast this is changing compared to even 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. So that leads us to the proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorized its regional administrator to execute the contract amendment to contract 59-103 with the University of Minnesota in the amount of $268,393, which will make the contract total since inception in 2015 $591,205. And I'd be happy to take questions about that.
I participated in one of those demonstration classes
Yeah.
a couple years ago, 2017 in September.
Great.
Ali Al Hassan was there, giving me the ins and outs of what this is all about, and I learned about the rain out shelter, which is super cool. It's like a mile from my house, but I had no idea what this thing was, and the fact that it's on tracks and can totally control how much rain this spot gets is amazing. I learned about like there's a hill there at on the St. Paul campus, and they'll plant different types of grasses and then measure how much water is at the bottom of the hill. So it can kind of get a lot of data there. Um, a big um, a big industry that's interested in turf grass is the golf industry, of course. So they have a divot machine, which could be my nickname as a golfer. But they have a divot machine that just scoops out a certain amount of divots and then see how different grasses um, respond to that, I guess. And another takeaway was go with fescues. Like the and the what I remember there is the more you do with fescues, the worse off they are. Like the best thing is just to kind of let them do their thing there and don't mess with them. Stay away from Kentucky bluegrass and rye and I don't know whatever else. I don't remember everything, but I was just walked away as being like very impressed. And I'm glad you brought up those posters. I think you can just download those posters on the website. It's very impressive. They're doing great work there, and hopefully getting those messages out to the people that need to hear them. Well, clearly they are at the State Fair and other places. Questions? Take your pick. Go for it.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm interested in the smart controller water sensor, or rain sensor. It talks about it being a smart investment. How much of an investment is it for a homeowner to put something like that in?
Mr. Chair and committee members, it's a pretty low-cost investment. It's about, for a residential controller that is 4 zones or 8 zones, it's about anywhere from $200 to $300. And it will usually pay for itself within the first year, or definitely within 2 here, even with our pretty low water rates that we have.
And are there any examples of townhome complexes or neighborhoods that have gone together and done this and, in a collaborative sort of way?
Mr. Chair and committee members, yes, there are a number of examples like that. The one that popped into my head right now is in Cottage Grove. It's a townhome association that was one of the top 10 water users in the community, and that was a surprise to everybody because there's nothing special about this townhome association. It was big, but it wasn't that big. I think their per capita water use calculated out at like 300 gallons per person per day. I mean, which is just crazy. And it turned out that the reason was that they hadn't had their irrigation system looked at probably since it was installed like 25 years ago, and it was leaking incredibly in many places. So that was an immediate win for them, and also for Cottage Grove. I mean, given the issues that they have had with PFAS in their groundwater and the emergency situation they had a couple of summers ago when they had to shut down a number of wells and eliminate irrigation because of the building of a temporary treatment plant. I can't remember if they got this done in time for that or if this was if that was the instigation for this particular project. But that's one. There are a lot of those. And yes, townhome associations are great, kind of an easy target for this, but you got to find them and get them interested, which is what we're working on next.
Councilmember Sterner.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And Mr. Davis, I just was wondering, are the like the installers, which would be a big one, are they actively installing these smart controllers in, or do you still have them kind of going back to the old system or not making these changes.
Mr. Chair and committee members, um, that's, I think, it's all anecdote for me on that. And I think it's a situation where you have some who are changing and adopting the new technologies easily, but there are some who are not, who've been doing it a long time, don't want to change, want to just keep doing it the way they've always done it. Maybe they've been doing it a long time, who knows? Uh, so I think I think it's a situation where we really need to work in the next couple of years harder on getting the word out, not only with the residents and the townhome association folks, but also with the installers and contractors. And so that's going to be part of the focus of the next couple of years, is how to do that, how to find them and get the word out to them and show them how to do it, because it's really not hard. I think it's just a matter of, I've been doing it this way for a long time, and I don't really want to learn new tricks because they look kind of weird, but they're actually not. They're actually really easy. And, on the plus side, I mean, it could lead to a lot of work for them, because there are a lot of load controllers around being replaced. And with our water efficiency grant program, in those 40 communities, I mean, those are 40 locations where there's the opportunity to do a good amount of that work. And, I mean, who doesn't want to have projects if you're in a business where projects are what bring in the money? It's a big opportunity, really.
Right.
Just another comment. I mean, about a decade ago, when I was on the Roseman City Council, we went from watering every other day to every third day. We saw we were the top user, number 2 in the state, or in our city, and so we were able to do that. And we also decided not to water what wasn't necessary area. So we just did the ball fields kind of thing, and we didn't see any change in the play factors or the performance of the fields, and that was a big difference. So if our communities in our metropolitan area aren't watered every third day or so, or using like a smart system like that, they definitely should, because I think it'll save us all a lot of water with it. And so just my other question would be, besides like the turf, like I'm on the Clean Water Council, and one of the people on our council said the 2 worst things for water is asphalt and turf grass with it. And so I don't know if we're given other alternatives, like with tree cover or rain gardens, things like that, as far alternatives to reduce the size of the turf grass as well.
Yeah. Well, that's Mr. Chair and committee members. That is that is a whole interesting topic there. Rain gardens, water reuse, and I've worked on some of those things, and they're important. I have to say that, like, part of my education with this whole project from starting 4 years ago is coming around to seeing the value of turf grass, if you can believe it or not. I mean, I used to be kind of anti-turf grass, really. I mean, we're garden people, and I ripped out a lot of grass at our house to put raised beds in. I can't say I was a big fan. But in being exposed to the university folks and learning more about it, and just, I don't know, learning, I guess, changing, I've come to see the value of it. I mean, obviously kids like to play on it when they're playing outside. I remember last August when I was at the state fair at the horticulture building. There's not a lot of grass at the state fair. It's a lot of people, a lot of asphalt for sure. But there is some grass around that horticulture building. It's pretty trampled down because there's so many people. But when I would walk out of that building and I would look around, I would see people, a lot of people, sitting down, laying down on that grass. They weren't sitting and laying down in the street or on the sidewalk or in the building, right? The only place for that really was the turf grass, and they were using it. So for that, I saw them like, well, look at that. I mean, this is where people want to rest. Maybe a bench, but of course you can't really find a bench at the state fair because it's jammed with people, right? So that made an impression on me, like, wow, okay, so here's a use of turf grass, a place to rest yourself. It made a big impression on me. So I'm all for natives. We have a lot of that at our house. It's hard to lay down in a bunch of Joe Pye weed. It's 5 feet tall. Not pleasant. So, but it's nice to have a mix, right? I mean, turf grass that's not so water hungry. Like fescues are wonderful for that. They're much more shade tolerant, and need much less water, less fertilizer. Um, if you can combine those things, then I think you're closing in on perfection. So I don't want to get rid of all the turf grass. Maybe less of it in some places, but I can see why it's valued.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
A bit of a side note, one thing I'm noticing a lot is the lawns to legumes
Oh yeah.
effort seems to be catching on amongst cities. I know that there's some funding from the state that goes directly to residents or businesses that want to convert, but then there's also some funding from the state that goes to organizations that are promoting this whole effort of pollinator friendly, moving from turf grass or lawns to something different. And then, like you, I'm a big fan of that as well, and I can see that there's probably a role for all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Other questions or comments?
I'd like to make a motion.
Motion has been made. So seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Thank you very much. Very informative. That takes us to the general manager's report. I know you have one or two things.
Got a couple things for our first meeting in 2020. In your packet, you'll find kind of a spreadsheet table, and it's our work plan for this year. So this, keep in mind, is the projections of when we think certain things will be ready to bring to you, but we could see some shifts. It's your second year in the Environment Committee, so it's probably not a surprise that Janine's group with her capital projects has the most items that we're going to bring to you. So you can look ahead and see what kinds of projects will be coming. And if there's anything on this schedule that you think you would like additional information on, we always are open to information item stuff. So sometimes around the work and not so much the project, we can bring in info item as well. So let us know if there's something that crosses your mind as you're looking at that. And second, end of the year, we're happy to announce we've got a plant that we've been operating since 2014, and it had its first year of perfect compliance, and that's East Bethel. So that's kind of a woo-hoo. It's been a challenge, a small plant, less flow than the plant was designed for. It's got some higher requirements in terms of discharge because it's not going to a receiving water body. So total coliforms was a big challenge for us to figure out how to adapt the technology and the automation with the flows that we had. A little greater understanding, developing experience with membrane filters, which we don't do a lot of in our facilities, and staff working together on strategies. So what do we pay close attention to and make adjustments as we're trying to keep ahead of the curve. So we're real happy to have East Bethel have a perfect year of compliance, and it's the staff that have worked hard across ES, not just the operations staff, that have helped make that possible. So
I know there's just so many things that go into making sure that you have 100% compliance every single day. Some small thing could happen, and all of a sudden, out it goes. So, yeah, my congratulations as well to everybody that works hard every day to make that a reality.
And this is our first plant that we really can class a water renewal facility. So that's also why it makes it such an important milestone for us. Kudos.
Very good. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.